Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I make this zebra house for your small pet. Guinea pigs, rabbits, ferrets, rats, maybe even a cat could fit into it. So without further ado, I'm going to show you how I do this project. So stick around. Now the first thing that I start with when I'm making these types of houses is I will put the front piece right sides together and then trace a hole where the opening is going to be for your pet to get into. After I've traced that hole, then I will go ahead and sew that down and cut the hole out. Once the hole is completely cut out and trimmed up, making it look nice, I'll flip the fabric back through so that you've got the black on one side and then the zebra on the other. And keep in mind that I had both sides facing together. When you flip it out like this, you've got your right sides, both of them are on the outside. So anything is not going to be backwards. Once I've flipped it, then I pin it. And this just helps keep everything in place for my basting. So I baste everything down because I don't want anything to shift when I'm sewing the project together, because this can get a little bit cumbersome when you're putting the top on and the bottom on. Now I do baste each piece. As you can see here, this part is the back because it doesn't have an opening. And then I also baste the up and over portion of it. So this is the longest piece that I have. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to top stitch it with a squiggly stitch about 1.5 inches in from the foam, not from the outside of the fabric. And I will put 3 lines on the up and over portion of it. As you can see right here, I'm just doing the middle line right now. And then I will also do about 1.5 inches maybe on the back portion. So you can see I used my ruler quite a bit. And you want to go slow with this because when you're using that squiggly stitch, it can get a little wonky. Some places it'll be stretched out, some places it'll be too tight, but the animal's not going to care. It's just my brain. And as you can see, I ran out of bobbin thread, so yeah, we all do it. So I thought I'd share that with you, that nothing goes perfect in a project when you're filming. So back at it, I go ahead and finish up that bottom portion of the top stitching, and then this is the front. Now this one is a little tricky because I have less foam to work with, so it's about 1/2 inch from the inside of the hole there to try and maneuver around. But you got to be careful and make sure that everything is, going smoothly. In this particular case, I went ahead and I did the potty pads next because I don't know. What I do now is I usually do my potty pads in the very beginning of my projects, but this is an older video, so what can I say? Now, after I sew the potty pads together, I do trim everything off so that you don't have bulkiness when you're flipping that right side out. And I flip out each corner first. Well, I poke each corner first because then when I flip it out, I've got all my corners poked out already. And it's just a little simpler for me to, have it all together and pull it out. After everything is right side out, I go ahead and hand stitch with a ladder stitch closed the potty pad, and then we take it over to the machine and we do 2 lines of top stitching. Now these I don't do any decorative stitching. I just do straight stitch. And I use a basting stitch length, about 4, I believe. So here I am sewing it about 1.5 inches from the edge of the material. And then the second line I will sew about 1/2 inch from that original line. So as you can see, we're just cutting those loose threads and then finishing up our potty pad. I didn't want to bore you with sewing two of them, so I just showed you the one here. The next thing that I'm going to do is put the front piece onto the up and over part. This can be a little bit tricky. So as you can see, I'm constantly moving this material and just adjusting everything. And the reason is because I want to keep that left part of my presser foot up against my foam so that I'm getting a pretty consistent line when I'm sewing it. It does get a little bit cumbersome, but as you can see, it does look good. And then you trim off that edge. Next thing I do is I put the back on. And again, go real slow. Make sure that you've got everything going smoothly. And then it's time for the bottom. Now, once you do the bottom, I always start for some reason with the opening portion first, and then I sew the rest of it all around. And each time I sew, I cut. Now, after you've gotten everything sewn, this is the last part of the bottom here, I believe. But once you've got everything sewn, you want to go ahead and make sure before you flip it right side out that you've got everything trimmed up pretty clean. And you'll see here that I'm just kind of like nitpicking, basically. It's just me and my OCD. So once I get all those little pieces cut off that I'm finally happy with, I take the lint roller and I roll the seams, and then I also roll the sides, the back, the front, and all of that, just to keep all of that fiber, I guess, off of it. As you can see, the brush gets pretty dirty. I go through about 6 sheets on the inside of it. And then once I flip it right side out, I lint roll it again, lint roll the pads, and we're done with the house itself. Now's the fun part. I'm going to sew my ears. So the ears, it took me a little bit to perfect the size of them. So here you can see I just went ahead and I sewed it. I flip it right side out. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that it's the right size for the house. And I go ahead and I look at it, as you can see there. After that, I will sew the bottom of the ear with a ladder stitch together because I don't know, I felt like it needed to be sewn and then put onto the house. So again, I use the ladder stitch here. I do have it pinned, but I will let you know that it does have a tendency to shift because you're moving around a lot. You're trying to get that in the right position. I have had to rip these out before and do them over again, but that's a learning curve, right? So just keep in mind that, it may not always work out best the first time, and just do it again. So once the ears are sewn on, then I go ahead and I move to my zebra's mane. Now the mane is made out of, I can't remember, some kind of ribbon that's got fringe, but it doesn't come apart. Like the ends are looped. So what I do is I fold it over about 4 times, the length that I want, and then I stitch it together because there is like a base on this particular ribbon that I bought. Once that's sewn together, then I'm going to pin it onto the back of the house, and it looks like a little zebra mane there. And I do hand stitch this with the ladder stitch all the way across it. It just, to me, it looks a little cleaner. I don't want to use glue because I think that just kind of takes away from the aesthetic of it. And then once it's done, I knot it off, and there we are. We have our zebra. Tell me what you think.